And we are live on Facebook. And here I am. I am Love Coach Scott Catamas. It's our Sacred Sunday show, Sunday, August 15th, 2021. 2021. And I have such a wonderful guest, Deborah Poneman. She was on our show a couple weeks ago, and I just wanted to spend more time with her. And she's got a lot of wisdom. And a lot of our shows recently have been focusing on health and well-being. And today we're going to talk about kind of a deeper level of it, how to have greater success and abundance in our life. And Deborah has been teaching this to people for a long time. She has a lot to share. So I'm going to get to Deborah in just a moment. But I always do like to start our Sunday show with just an opportunity to drop in, meditate, kind of align our energies and kind of slow down a little bit, get ready to receive the medicine, the wisdom that Deborah has to share with us. I want to welcome all the people in our Zoom room. And we've got a nice group of friends all the way from the UK, New York, British Columbia. So please do let us know where you're from. We've even got somebody from Hawaii. So we've got all the way from England to Hawaii already. I like that. And for anybody watching on Facebook, you can still come into our Zoom room. And I'll give you the Zoom room number. It is 999-658-42444. So if you want to come to the Zoom room, which is an easier way for us to interact, it's Zoom room number 999-658-42444. I'll also post that in the comments after my meditation. So unless you are operating a motor vehicle or a bicycle, I would love to invite you to close your eyes and to just start with a breath, breathing at your own pace, but consciously breathing. Putting your attention on your breath. Just let the sound of my voice gently guide you. And as we inhale, we are grateful for life, grateful for our breath. Our breath represents life. Life begins with breath, and it ends with breath. And on the exhale, we release, we let go of anything that we don't want to carry with us, letting go of any energies, thoughts, even belief systems that no longer serve us. And as we inhale, breathing in new life, as we exhale, releasing old energy, we prepare to receive. I want to invite all of us to remember a time in our life when we heard something, we read something, a teacher said something, and it just clicked. And our life changed a little bit in that moment. Something simple, it could be as simple as a recipe, but it could be as profound as time to really change my health or to change my life's direction. It could be simple, it could be significant or larger. Just remember, what's it feel like? You have those moments where you read the right thing, you hear the right thing. I'm inviting you to go into sense memory and remember a moment like that and how it felt in your body. So I'm inviting you to remember that because I want us to do that again today. Invite us if you want, you can open your eyes. Because I have a feeling that Deborah's got something to say for each and every one of us. So I want us all to have at least one aha moment today. And if people want to put into the chat box the aha moment that was their memory, that came in earlier, that'd be great. My aha moment went way back. It went back to, I was in high school, and my drama teacher, Mr. Raleigh, he was Grandpa Boone. For any of you can remember the Grandpa Boone commercials, he played Grandpa Boone in the commercials. He was an actor and my drama teacher. And I remember the moment that he looked at me and said, "Scott Catamas, you are an entrepreneur." And I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was, but he saw the way that I organized everything. And that was the first time I heard the word in most of my life. I've made my living as an entrepreneur. So that was my aha moment. So thank you, Mr. Raleigh, who's up in heaven now. And I now get to introduce Deborah, but do put in any aha moments that you might have. And again, continue to let us know where you're from, all the way from Berkeley to Chicago. It's wonderful. All right, I am going to put the spotlight on Deborah. Hi.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here on this beautiful Sunday, sunny Sunday morning in Chicago. Perfect weather. I know you California people like brag about your weather, but 75 and cloudless in Chicago today.
Deborah, I would switch in a second. Where I am, it's going to get up to 102, which is way too hot. And I used to say that I lived in the wine country, but now the truth is I live in the wildfire country. We almost were evacuated on Friday night. A lot of smoke from the big fire that's happening up north. So you know what? I would much rather be where you are right now.
Well, we have a spare room.
Okay, I'll book a flight. Hey, let me tell people a little bit about you. Deborah is the founder and CEO of Yes to Success Seminars, and she's the co-founder of the highly acclaimed Ageless Seminar. And her workshops, her keynotes, her online events have transformed the lives of hundreds of thousands around the world. Deborah provides a step-by-step system to create both profound outer success as well as unshakable inner happiness and radiant health. I mean, how could I not have this woman on our show? And I am so eager, Deborah, to hear kind of your tips, your tools, and your practices.
Well, I just have to say, what's so crazy about this, Scott, is that we just met recently when I was a guest on Saturday Night Live, and you were the most competent, engaging host. Because I host things myself, so I can get critical a little bit once in a while.
I'm snobby about other coaches and other hosts. I get
right. I thought this guy has it going on. You were juggling. There was some tech difficulty there, and just with such grace, and you were so personable to everybody. And I thought, I love it. And then when you invited me to be on this, I said, yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I do enjoy hosting, and I love people, and I love sharing wonderful people like yourself up with our audience, because we all need as many tools as we can get for raising our consciousness, being as healthy as we possibly can be. I mean, you look fantastic, so clearly you're doing something right.
Walker Bueller now available.
What was that?
Somebody agreeing with you.
Okay. I don't think
This question from Kirsten wants to know.
Somebody else agreeing. You're
Walker first. You were fantastic this evening.
I think we need to mute everybody. Somebody got unmuted somehow.
No, you know what? I think what it was, I had paused a video last night when I turned on my computer, and it just automatically went on. So actually, that was Walker Bueller of the Los Angeles Dodgers about to answer questions. So we don't have Walker on the show tonight. We have someone much more interesting with Deborah Potomac. So that was on my end. I apologize.
That's very funny. I've had that happen.
Deborah, so tell us, where do you want to start? How do we
become successful?
Yeah.
Well, you already are. So we'll start right there. That Well, let me tell you a little bit about my journey, because I see a lot of my friends, a lot of my students are here, and guys, you're just going to have to hear it again. But because I think that my journey towards quote unquote success and is filled with tips that people can use in their own lives. So I will kind of truncate it a little bit, but I'll just hit the real high points. And I think you'll see why. And it was also a spiritual journey. I think that you didn't read my bio, which is great, because then I'll get to surprise everybody with everything in my bio. But I did become a teacher of transcendental meditation. I went to teacher training in 1971. So I just popped out of my mom and went off to teacher training. And so in 1971, I went to TM teacher training. For the decade of the 70s, I was in heaven. I was teaching TM. I was an administrator at Maharishi International University in Fairfield, Iowa. I was in the first graduating class at Maharishi International University in 1977, and life was really good. There's only one problem, and that is that woman does not live by mantra alone. And I was freaking broke. Because I work, the TM movement is a nonprofit. So we didn't have health insurance. We didn't have car insurance. I mean, I didn't have a car to insure. So I thought, okay, what can I, these weren't the days where people were told to find their passion. Okay. I didn't even know that concept, but I did know that I probably needed health insurance. I was pushing the big 3-0, and I thought, maybe what I'll do is I'll go somewhere where I can make a lot of money, and then I could come back and do what I love to do, which is teaching meditation. Well, you know that expression, we make plans and God laughs. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that we don't make plans, but that means that we are always willing to turn on a dime when spirit speaks to us and says, course correct, right? When that little gentle voice inside of you says, girl or guy, you are going in the wrong direction. Just trust that voice and just do a little bit of course correction, and you'll see the grace that comes pouring down on you, because it's the difference between listening to what your mind has to say about it, which is filled with all of the impressions from the past, what your parents told you was true, what your clergy told you was true, what your teachers, unlike your drama teacher who told you should be an entrepreneur, but what some of your not so great teachers told you and the media tells you. What you have to do is you have to listen to what your heart is telling you. And even if it looks good on paper, do a little bit of a pivot, and then you'll see that the God of your understanding will just rejoice and will shower you with blessings. So I was teaching meditation. I decided that I was going to go to LA because I thought that was where people make money. I mean, everybody looked rich in LA. So I thought, I'll just move to LA and make a lot of money. So I moved to LA, and I thought, well, what do people do in LA? Well, they sell investments. So I got a job selling investments. I hadn't done anything my entire adult life except teach meditation and work at Maharishi International University. I get to LA. I got a job selling investments. I was a dismal failure, but we know there's no such thing as failure, because all you have to do is look for what you learned during that circumstances, because it's all a setup from the creator. It's all perfect, exactly the way it is. And one night I was invited by one of my colleagues to go to a money seminar. I'm like, yes, I thought it was going to be on stocks and bonds so I could get more successful at what I was doing, which was like, I hadn't sold one investment. And it's at the Learning Annex. Remember the Learning Annex in LA?
Absolutely. Yeah, I went there.
Many times
in LA, so I definitely knew it.
Right. So this is 1980 now, or 1980. So I go to the Learning Annex, and there's this, it was not somebody talking about stocks and bonds, but the money seminar was about the law of attraction. So this was 41 years ago. And the guy says that we are like tuning forks. And if we are always talking about how poor we are, how we'll never get out of debt, how we'll never be rich, how it's just my karma, how my parents were poor. If you see people who have a beautiful new Tesla or live in a beautiful home, if you go, yeah, nice for them, ain't ever going to be where I'm going to be living. Well, then that's how you vibrate. And that is the only thing that you can attract into your life. A B flat tuning fork cannot cannot vibrate in an F sharp. And we vibrate with the thoughts we think and the words we say. So this guy is talking about this. I'd never heard this concept before. And I had one of those moments. Remember, you said where something clicked?
Right.
That was my something clicked moment. And the click was, I want to teach this. It just made so much sense to me. He also said that the way to become wealthy and successful is helping other people become wealthy and successful, because as you put out, it will come back to you. And he said you can do it by mentoring, you could do it by teaching, you could do it by what you're doing, putting on these events, helping people. And he also said that you could do it just by wishing people success and prosperity. So if you see the guy in the Tesla who you knew was a jerk in high school, you don't say, oh, I can't believe that jerk has that beautiful Tesla. What did he do? He probably stole, you know. What you do is you say, God bless him, may he have ever more prosperity, and that's for me. You add that that's for me, because that's putting in your order into life. When you begrudge somebody their, handsome or beautiful partner or their successful business, you're just putting a block against your own. Okay. It's like, it can't come through to you. But if you wish them success and prosperity, it opens up an energy channel for it to come back to you. So I'm in this seminar. This guy is saying everything that just was my something click moment after moment. I went home, I went to sleep, and I woke, it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up my wonderful then husband named Mark. I've had a couple. Anyway, that was Mark. And I woke him up and I said, Mark, I know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. He wished I would have waited until 8 o'clock. But another thing that this guy had told us to do at the Learning Annex, his name was Chris. He said, if you don't know what your passion is in life, if you don't know what it is that makes your heart sing, write down the list of the things, your everyday things that make your heart sing. So before I went to sleep that night, I had written down my list. I like to talk. I like to travel. I like to laugh. I like to laugh so much that I cry, and cry so much that I laugh. I like to work with people that I love, high vibration people. I didn't use the term back then, but I wrote that list. And so while at 6 o'clock in the morning, I said to my then husband, and it has everything on my list. I'm going to travel. I'm going to talk. I'm going to write books. I'm going to go on TV. So anyway, he rolled over, went back to sleep, and I got to work on putting together this seminar. I quit my job. People go, wow, that's so brave to quit your job. It was not brave. Don't make me into any kind of hero. I hadn't sold one investment. So let's just be really clear. I'm no hero and I have quit my job. But I started studying the great masters of success and prosperity, like Napoleon Hill and Wallace Wattles and Emmett Fox, Science of Mind and Church of Religious Science. I didn't know that body of knowledge existed. And I had to go to the library and look it all up on microfiche. If you know what microfiche is, then you're probably almost as old as I am. So I am just like a kid, and we had to get cassette tapes. There was no internet. There was no, whatever. So, but I just devoured it all. And then I decided that I was ready to have my own seminar. But I'm just going to share with people the 3 techniques that I use that allowed my seminar to be incredibly successful. And the first is just know that when an idea comes to you, it comes to you because the creator has chosen you as a vehicle to manifest that idea. If you have an idea for a book or a play or a business or whatever it is, it's like, I believe that the creator whispers it into your ear because you're the creator's first choice, but you got to get going on it because it's also needed by the creator to make the creation work. We all need to do these things, whether it's to design shoes or to sell shoes, whether it's to write a book or to sell books. That is something that needs to be done. So the idea came to you, so you act on it, and but don't tell everyone what you're going to do. Don't say, I just had the idea, I'm going to write this book on such and such, because what happens is that I guarantee you, if you share it with too many people, you are going to bump up against the discouragement committee. And you know the discouragement committee, Scott, those are those people who will tell you all of the reasons why your idea won't work. I'm going to start a Sunday morning event where people that will combine, spirituality and health, and it'll just rock. And then if you share it with the wrong person, they'll say, oh, there's so many things on Sunday morning. We don't need another one. Ouch. But what happens is that it goes in somewhere on a deep level. So what you want to do is when your idea is a tiny seed that could easily be crushed, don't share it with somebody. Don't share with anybody who could potentially be the discouragement committee. And that, that might be almost everybody, because even if somebody goes, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. And you could tell they don't really think it is. Then what happens is that your idea inside your heart is crushed, probably never to be manifested on the planet. So what is your ideas, your precious ideas are sacred. What is sacred needs to be kept secret until it's a strong, plant that cannot be crushed. So an idea comes to you because you are the chosen one for that idea. What is sacred should be kept secret. And finally, don't wait until everything is perfectly in place. Here's the deal. I was 29 years old. I was going to teach a success seminar. I was not only broke, I drove a Chevy, 10-year-old Chevy Bel Air that my wonderful Aunt Flo had left me, and her daughter, actually my precious cousin Marcia, my Berkeley cousin Marcia, is on the line. I drove this beat up Chevy Bel Air, and I literally didn't have a penny in the bank. And I was going to teach how to be successful, but that idea had been whispered to me. So what I did was I took a step from which there was no turning back, because all the voices in my head said, why you, why you, why you? I went out and I put up posters. I wasn't ready, but I had to take a step from which there was no turning back. As soon as I put up the posters, the discouragement committee was, really? Your mind creates your reality? That's weird. But the posters are already up and the room was already rented. And when I walked into that room at the Santa Monica Library to talk about a crazy idea like the law of attraction, 30 years before The Secret came out, there was standing room only. And within a few short years, my seminars were being taught all over in 7 countries on 4 continents, decades before the internet. That was snail mail and phones with curly cords. So I hope that some people had some aha moments and they learned some things, some steps that you can take to create a successful life.
Well, beautiful. I want to riff on those steps. So first of all, thank you. And everyone just take a breath and digest all that Deborah shared. And I'd like to riff on it for a moment. It is really important for us to learn how to be clear channels for spirit to flow through. And I have 2 primary mantras that I do. And I want to share them actually, because they've really changed my life and they've been helpful, and they go right with what you were talking about, Deborah. The first mantra is, I am a clear channel for spirit to flow through. And I do that while I'm driving, just constantly. I am a clear channel for spirit to flow through. I'm a clear channel for spirit to flow through. And I've been doing that mantra for a long, long time. And honestly, often when I'm coaching, I'll be coaching a couple or a family or a person, and I'll hit a spot where I'm not sure where to go next. I'm beyond, and I go beyond my intellectual mind, my logical mind, and I just drop into, I'm a clear channel for spirit to flow through. And the next thing I know, my mouth opens and words come out, but they're not coming from my logical mind. They're coming from somewhere else. And it's been really useful, because that in those moments, those have been almost always magical, holy moments where what was said wasn't what I would have thought of necessarily in my own intellect, but something else came through that was, always the person goes, oh my God, thank you so much. And it's the same thing, whether it's a small decision or a big decision, really learning to listen. Now, Deborah talked about learning to listen to that little gentle voice. And the key is listening to it when it's still small and gentle. Because I think, as we all know, if we don't listen to it when it's small and gentle, it gets louder and louder and louder. And then the next thing you know, you're in the car accident, or you're in the hospital, or you're seeing the doctor, or whatever it is, right? So let's all try and listen when it's small and gentle. I'll share a quick story, and then I want to get back to Deborah about being a clear channel for spirit to flow through. And it's interesting because I was just telling this story yesterday to someone. In 1988, I was visiting Maui, and I woke up one morning and I was filled with Holy Spirit. And that voice was loud. And I went to my typewriter. This was before I had a computer. I went to my typewriter and actually carried a portable typewriter with me to Hawaii. That's because I'm a writer. And I wrote a story. And I started it at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I finished it at 7 o'clock at night. And it was a story about a gay man dealing with AIDS. And this was before they were even calling it AIDS. They were calling it the gay cancer. But I had a lot of a lot of beautiful friends that were dealing with it. Anyway, I wrote this story. Within 6 months, I had raised over $1 million, and we were in pre-production, and we made a movie out of it. And if you read what I wrote that day and you see the final film, it's 90%. I mean, I made a couple of tweaks, but it came through. And if that morning somebody said, whatever you write is going to be made into a movie, there's 100 things I would have written before that in my intellectual mind. I'm not gay, but that's what I listened to spirit in that moment. I listened, and the money came, the movie got made, the movie got seen. It was also 2.5 years of my life. But I thought of that, Deborah, when you talk about there's a job to be done. There's a job to be done. Life wanted that movie made. I happened to be the channel that picked it up and committed to doing that. And if I hadn't done it, there would have been somebody in Chicago or somebody in Oahu who did, right? It was something that wanted to happen. And right now, as we're in this time of transformation, where clearly the human species must evolve very quickly, we need to be listening. So I wanted to riff on those things and turn it back over to you, Deborah.
I love that. Can we still see the movie, or is it not?
You were talking, I mean, back in the day, it was in Blockbuster. I recently did it's not on YouTube or anything like that. I probably could post it at this point. I still have a 35 millimeter print in my garage, and I have a DVD. So I probably should transfer it and put it up on YouTube. That's a good idea.
That would be so cool. What's the name of it?
The movie's called Men in Love. Men in Love.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And you'll find it in IMDb. It's in there. So anyway.
Very good. I see, learning something new about you every day.
Well,
And and it's interesting because it's so funny when I was talking and then you said, okay, so let's like take a deep breath. It's like you and I go to a different church. You know what I mean? Because I go to here in Chicago, there's a church called Christ Universal, and it is it's like that kind of church. And I've been missing it because we haven't been able to go. I don't know if you remember Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman, amazing woman who started this mega church. It was a new age mega church when in the 1950s. That's a whole nother story. But in the meantime, I was thinking when you were talking about how I listened to that inner voice again when I actually gave up my career at the height of my success. Because those of you, a lot of my friends are on, but a lot of people who probably have no idea who I am and have never heard of me. And they're wondering, like, if that was 1980 and you were so successful, how come I haven't heard of you? And the answer is exactly what we're talking about, following your heart. And what happened was, and you might be wondering the same thing, Scott, well, where have you been all these years? And the answer is, well, pretty much at Chuck E. Cheese, but I'll tell you why.
Chuck E. Cheese is the most terrifying place I've ever gone to in my life. I only went there once. I didn't have children. I went there once. Oh my God, it's terrifying.
I know. You mean the guy with the big mouse head?
Yeah, well, you've got all these super sugar, caffeinated kids running around, and then there's this gigantic rodent staring at you, and the only food you could possibly eat could not possibly be even considered food.
Pizza.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I made a vow I will never go to a Chuck E. Cheese again. So
That's
living
so-
there, I have the greatest respect for you, because that's
Yeah, well, the
that's
reason was why I say I spent most of my time at Chuck E. Cheese was so in 1988, I was about to have my own daytime TV talk show. I was in negotiations with a major producer. Remember, I was living in LA, and well, actually, I had been living in LA, and I knew this producer, and because I had moved back to Fairfield, that's another whole story, where Maharishi International University is. And also, my book was in the hands of several New York publishers who were interested in publishing my Yes to Success book. And something happened where I decided to just give it all up, like cold turkey. And that is that my daughter was born. And I took one look at her and I thought, new passion.
yeah.
And what was really crazy about it is that I had, for example, I had a promoter. I was supposed to do a tour of Southeast Asia. This is 1988. And I called him and I said, well, he called me. He said, I heard you had the baby. Let's get the tour on the books. And I said, you're going to have to call me back in 18 years because I had decided that I wanted to be a full-time mom at home. Fortunately, husband number two had a lot of money. So that's the other thing. He's like, oh, you gave up your career. And I did give up my career. And I'll talk about that in a second, but it wasn't like I needed to do that. And because people put me on a pedestal for having done it, but I had somebody that could support me well. And so I don't like the pedestal thing to go on, but I did give up my career because I know that each of us has a purpose. And even though I gave up my speaking career for 18 years, when my daughter was born, it actually turned into 21 years because 3 years later I had a son. But that's what the voice inside me told me to do. When this guy Chiang said, have you gone out of your mind? When I said, you have to call me back in 18 years, I said, yeah, I did, Chiang, and I've gone right into my heart, because my mind said I was nuts for giving up this career and a best-selling book and a TV show. But my heart said, you know what? If it's your dharma, it will be waiting for you on the other side if you follow your heart.
Deborah, I love that. And I'd like to say two things. One is, yes, there is this idea of just being a housewife, just being a mother is somehow inferior to being wildly successful or a best-selling author, whatever it may be. And I think some of the most spiritually advanced human beings I've met, and because of the nature of my life, I've sat with a lot of supposedly enlightened gurus. I've interviewed almost every best-selling New Age spiritual teacher and author, and probably some of the most highly evolved human beings I've ever known have very simple lives, raising children, being a teacher, and just quietly changing the world that way. And so I think it's really beautiful to bring that up, that, again, whatever you're drawn to, and I think it's awesome that you let go of the glamour of all of that to listen to your heart. And what a beautiful, beautiful choice.
Well, thank you. And I think that when we're in the flow, it's almost like the choices choose us.
Mhm.
And there was no way. I mean, I didn't want to leave that baby to go to the bathroom, let alone to go to Southeast Asia.
Right.
So but I remember one time I saw a card that says, she laughed and said, oh, you're just a mother. And I laughed because I knew she wasn't qualified.
Woo, that's good. That's a little catty, but good. By the way, just
Right.
since you
But
brought it up, the church that my church is Agape. In fact, I had Reverend Michael Beckwith on our show last night. And Agape is very evangelical and has big moments. And also that does have the quiet moments. So I'm very tantric in that way. I love the passionate moments and I love the slowing down moments. I like both.
well, I will tell you a slowing down moment then. I'll tell you a story. People ask me if I ever doubted my decision, because let's face it, while I was at the aforementioned Chuck E. Cheese, my students, who include people like Marcy Scheimoff, who was actually my secretary in the early days of Yes to Success, Janet Atwood, who was also my personal assistant in the early days of Yes to Success, Deepak Chopra, who took my seminar numerous times. I mean, I could go on, but people say, did you ever regret or did you ever doubt your decision? And the answer is, of course I did. I mean, here I am knee deep in dirty diapers, and here they are, my students, on the top of the bestseller list. So of course you doubt, you're human. That's what humans do, and it's okay. But I want to tell you one incident when my kids are my daughter was probably 4 and maybe 5, and my son was 2. He was still in diapers, so he was really young, and they were not happy. And it was one of those days where nothing can make them happy. I usually did not put my kids in front of a TV, but this was definitely a TV day. So I put them down on the couch, and my daughter wanted to watch Barney, that big purple dinosaur thing.
Right.
Barney. So she's like, where's Barney? Where's Barney? So I'm doing a channel check. True story, Scott. I'm doing a channel check. And just as I'm about to turn, we did dials at the time, dial to Barney, I see one of my students on Oprah. And not only do I see one of my students on Oprah, but he is showing Oprah it was kind of a demonstration of the power of your mind that I had cognized in a meditation and I taught to my students. And he was showing it to Oprah, which was fine, because when I retired, I said to all my students, take my stuff, teach it. You don't have to give me credit. It's for the world. It's not for any kind of credit. So my students went out and taught my stuff, which was yay. And however, Oprah is like, oh my gosh, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I'm going to teach it to my whole staff. So here is him getting, Oprah losing your mind over this. He gets that. I get these 2 whiny kids. So I'm standing in front of the TV. And at that moment, that was like the opposite of something click. At that moment, what click was that, I think I've ruined my life. And I remember standing in front of the TV and bursting into tears. Parents, when you just had it and you just can't even do one more wine or one more, you just can't do it anymore. And I just burst into tears, and I'm standing in front of the TV. The good thing is it made them stop whining, because it put them into shock. The 2 of them on the couch, why is mommy crying all of a sudden? So anyway, I kind of what actually kind of shifted me out of my self-imposed pity party was my daughter. True story. She goes, Mommy. I go, yes, sweetheart. She goes, I think you forgot our popsicles. And so I said, yes, I did, sweetheart. So I found Barney and I went into the kitchen. And this is what happened. And, a few weeks ago on Saturday Night Alive, you had people who had experiences of the beyond and after-death experiences. This wasn't an after-death experience, but I was standing in my kitchen and I was pouring the orange juice into the popsicle mold, when you put it in the freezer. And I was mad at God. And I was like, God, how could you have done that to me? And I was really mad. And I hear this little voice say, remember the book. And I'm like, I do remember the book. It was in the hands of a New York publisher. And that should have been me on Oprah. And the voice of God said, no, not that book. And I saw this image of a book of somebody who had died and had an experience on the other side, like we talked about on Saturday Night Live, and came back and wrote a book about it. It's not anybody who was on your show, and the story that he told was that he went through this dark tunnel. At the end of the dark tunnel, there is a being of light. And the being of light asked him if he would like to see a movie reel of the high points of his life. And he said, yes, he would. And it was a very short reel. It just showed him showing his son how to swing a baseball bat and dancing with his daughter at her wedding. And the man, even on the other side, he said he was indignant. He said, what about the time I brought my company public? What about the time we opened up our factories in Japan? What about, and the being of light said, all of those moments glorified you.
Mm.
And then the being of light said to the man, would you like to see the life of somebody else who has just passed over? And the man still indignantly said, yes, I would. And in the book, it said that these curtains of golden light parted, and they're sitting on a throne of golden light, surrounded by a host of angels, was the woman who used to take 2 or 3 buses to come and clean this man's toilets. And the being of light said, you always judged her as some pathetic creature, but she had a gorgeous life. And I'll show you the highlights of her life. And the first thing he showed her was, the being showed the man was the woman carrying a pot of soup to a sick friend. And then her comforting her mom and stroking her hair and holding her hand as she was making her transition. And then her soothing a child, saying it's going to be okay, who had just been bullied. And it was cheering at the baseball games for the kids whose parents couldn't be there to cheer because they had to work 2 or 3 jobs just to put food on the table. And it was her just going to church and hugging everybody up and saying, how you doing today? And then the being of light said, when you get here, you find out that the only thing that matters on earth is how much love you give. And I went back into the living room, and I just put my arms around my 2 babies. And even though I had given up traveling the world and I'd given up studying with all the gurus, I just spent the next 21 years learning from my 2 greatest gurus. And those are the gurus who call me mom.
That's a beautiful story. It's just, I love how you take that universal truth and apply it in such a vivid and dynamic way to your life. And the humility that you just shared is just beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. But it's true, I love my little gurus. They keep me on my toes. Still, they're now 33 and 30, and they still keep me on my toes.
I want to acknowledge it's true that I've been doing documentaries and television shows about near-death experiences for a long time. And of course, we've had a lot of the most famous researchers on Saturday Night Live recently. And it really is true that the biggest commonality of people that go out there, have an experience, come back, remember it, is that the meaning of life is we are here to learn to love, starting with ourselves, learning how to love and accept ourselves, our disillusionments, our childhood wounding, whatever it might be, learning to love ourselves. And that's not selfishness. What's interesting, people who love themselves are never selfish, because the more you love yourself, the more then you've got this overflow and you naturally want to contribute to the well-being of others. The ironic thing is that people that don't love themselves are the ones who behave selfishly because they're trying to fill a gaping hole. They're trying to fill, a hole that has, that's endless, So it's an interesting thing to remember that cultivating authentic, healthy self-love is actually going to end up supporting the world. And I have a feeling you might have a few things to say about that.
Well, the thing I was going to say is that it works the other way around as well. And that is when we give in any way, like, there's the earthquake in Haiti that just happened yesterday. And I happen to do a lot of nonprofit work in Haiti. I go down every few years, and we have a nonprofit, and actually one of our schools that we built is right in Lakai, which is all of our teachers are safe. We've been in touch with them, although 3 of them had their homes collapse the kids, it's hard to track their families down because it's in a very remote village outside of Lakai. But people always say to me, like, oh, you're so wonderful. You go to Haiti. I mean, it's no picnic. There's no air conditioning. It's 102 in the shade. But I do it because it makes me feel good. Again, I don't want to go, oh, Deborah, you're going to Haiti. You're so terrific. Giving makes you feel good. Do you know? And if anybody says I give completely selflessly, it can't be true, actually. It's like if something doesn't feel good, like putting your hand on a hot stove, you pull it away.
Yeah.
But something feels good, you keep doing it. And the thing about self-love, I mean, think about it. When you give somebody a gift, you know, a present, a shawl, and they go, oh my God, it's blue. I love this material. You feel so happy. So and that is self-love. You love yourself at that moment because you feel so happy that you made friends. I want to, oh, Deborah, you're going to hate. See, it's emphasizing my point. But in the meantime, and it's the same thing. You go and you do charitable work and people say, oh, you're so wonderful. You do it because it increases your self-love.
Yeah.
You feel good about yourself. The bonus is that these people in Haiti get, you know, medical care and food and houses and beautiful schools. We have 3 beautiful schools, and that's the bonus. But self-love, if you want self-love, I mean, it's proven that when you do good deeds, when you do things that uplift other people, it raises your oxytocin, which is the feel-good hormone. There was a study done in Harvard where they gave people money and they said you could either buy yourself something or buy somebody else something. And then they actually measured their oxytocin level. And the oxytocin level of the people who bought something for someone else was way higher than people who took the money and bought something for themselves.
That's a great study. One of probably the most significant mentor of my life was Marshall Rosenberg. And my favorite quote from Marshall, I traveled and talked with him, and my favorite quote from Marshall was, the greatest joy in life is contributing to the well-being of others. And then I've kind of added to that the greatest tragedy in life is never learning that.
Yes.
It's like when we learn what you just described, the joy of contributing to others, when we learn that, life is good. No matter what our circumstances, life is good. But when you don't learn that and you're in that constant grasping, life is very unpleasant, you know?
Yeah. And you know what, Scott, you and I both know many people who have beautiful houses and they drive the top of the line Tesla and they have fame and they're so empty inside and they keep buying more things thinking it's gonna fill that gap inside, but it's like a hungry ghost. It's never going to be filled. However, if you do that giving thing. And the other thing is people think, but when I give, you know, they almost feel badly that it makes them feel good. You know, they think they're giving selfishly, but that's okay. We're human. You know, if you feel a little puffed up because you did something, I mean, it's okay. That's just something that we kind of can't avoid. And but ultimately giving does increase your self-love. But I want to tell you something that I have not told you, and that is, again, 2 weeks ago when Saturday Night Alive had the people who had near-death experiences, I had 2 near-death experiences, but I want to share one of them because I think that it will really help your listeners, because it was such a profound life lesson that it has monumentally changed my life. And it wasn't just love is the answer, something completely different. So can I tell you?
Of course.
Okay. So what happened was that it was a Monday and I felt like I had a little tickle in my throat, and I never get sick because if I ever feel, by the way, little success tip here, whatever you want in your life, declare it. So I don't say, oh, I get sick every time, you know, a flu comes around, I catch it. Every time it becomes winter in Chicago, I get sick again. No, I say, I never get sick. Okay, so that's the energy that I vibrate. I never get sick. So this was very unusual because I started getting a little tickled. So I took my golden seal, my echinacea, and some, electrolytes, and it didn't go away. So I did it again on Tuesday, but whatever it was getting worse. And by Wednesday, it was worse. Thursday, it was worse, which was so unusual for me. And I remember lying in bed on a Saturday morning, and I lived by myself at the time. And I realized that I could die there and nobody would know. Well, people would say, where's Deborah? But so I did and I really felt like I was dying. So I did what any intelligent person would do. I called my local healer and I said to him, I think I'm dying. Can you help me? And he looked in on me, long distance, of course. And he said, I will help you, but you have to promise me you'll do what I tell you to do. And I said, anything. He said, call 911 immediately. Well, by that time, I couldn't even open my eyes and dial the phone. He says, I'll do it for you. So the paramedics came, they had to break in the door because I couldn't even stand up. And they asked me what hospital I wanted to go to. And I whispered Evanston, and they commiserated, and they realized they didn't have time to get me to Evanston because it was about 11 minutes away. So they took me to a little hospital around the corner that was 3 minutes away. And I go into the emergency room and they're hooking me up to every machine and, putting something in every orifice. I mean, because my blood pressure at that point was like 53/28 or something where I shouldn't be alive. Well, it turned out that I had just come home from a trip to a developing country, and I had picked up a bacteria, a deadly bacteria, and it was in my blood, and I had an acute sepsis. 50% of people survive, and out of those 50%, they often have some bad debilitating things for the rest of their life. So I am lying there, and the healer had called my former husband, who was still my best friend, and he came over to the hospital, and he sat down in the room, and it didn't look like I was going to live. And I remember looking over and seeing tears rolling down his face. And then I saw a nurse. Oh, by the way, I was going to the other side. I was about halfway. I mean, when I closed my eyes, when I opened my eyes, I could see everything that was going on in the room. But when I closed my eyes, I could see that everything in the room was being orchestrated by a divine light. I saw that every movement of the doctor's hands, every time a nurse would hang up an IV bag. Actually, one of the nurses hung up the IV bag and then fumbled it and dropped it on the gurney. And everybody shot her these glances like, you clumsy thing. But I saw her bend down to pick it up. And when she bent down to pick it up, she moved her head away from a monitor, and somebody gasped and went and adjusted the monitor, and it saved my life. And you know how people say there are no mistakes in the universe? In this place between life and death, I saw that there were really no mistakes in the universe, that everything was orchestrated and everything fits together like the wheels, like the cogs on a fine-tuned watch. And I remember watching this light show and thinking, wow, if I live, maybe I could tell people about it. And then when it looked like I was going to the other side, I saw the nurse go over to my husband. This will blow your mind. Put her hand on his shoulder and say, don't worry, she's going to be fine. And I saw when she said those words, she's going to be fine. I saw these words, the words actually come out of her mouth. The energy of the words come out of her mouth. They were accompanied by light, like a little rainbowish thing, like My Little Pony did it. Anyway, it went out of her mouth and into my body. She's going to be fine. And it went to every cell, and it brought life back to every cell. Her words, she's going to be fine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, your words do create your reality. I'd been teaching that since 1980, right? And this was 15. And I saw with my own eyes the power of your words. And then it gets even better. The doctor comes in, looks at the monitors, and in this really intense voice goes, get her blood pressure up or we're going to lose her. And when he said, we're going to lose her, I saw the words come out of his mouth, accompanied by this brown, gray gunk that smelled like a swamp. Because remember, I was in this place between life and death, so everything was heightened. We're going to lose her. Went into my body and took all of my strength away. And at that moment, I made a deal with God. I said, okay, God, if you let me live, I promise two things. One is that I will tell people the power of their words, not only on themselves, on other people. I will tell people that it's not just a pipe to, oh, your words create your reality. They really create your reality. And the other thing I promise is that I would never say anything again that I didn't want to happen. I would never say anything like, oh, my daughter is so da da da, or my son is so he da, da. Because I would say things that I did. This isn't it. Like, my son is so lazy. He's the least lazy person in the world. But so I'm using that as an example. But I promised the God of my understanding that I would never, ever again say anything that I didn't want to manifest, because I knew I was manifesting it. So the good news is I lived. Yay for me. I am alive. And the other piece of good news is that I kept my promise, and I'm teaching everybody your word is, in fact, as Catherine Ponder says, or as that Florence Scovel Shinn said, your word is your wand. It's a magic wand. Anything you want to manifest, just declare it. It might not come in your timing, but it will come in perfect timing. You just need to declare it, because that is the power of your words. Ah, you're muted.
Beautiful story. Beautiful story. And I love that image of as you saw the words actually coming out. And again, I just want us to really take in, let's be really conscious with our languaging. You know, it's funny when you talked about getting sick. When we get a fever, we're not getting sick. We have a fever because the body is healing itself. Right. And just that understanding, it's not, oh my God, I'm getting sick, I have a fever. No, something's inside the body, and the body is doing its natural function, and the fever is the body doing what it needs to do to heal it. It's interesting, that mindset, isn't it? And so let's, and also I had a childhood friend whose mother was a nurse, but she was also very extremely codependent with wanting to keep her child sick, and so she could keep him home. And I will never forget coming over to play, and he was fine, we're playing, and then she comes out and she, oh, you don't look good. And I literally watched her do this whole routine with him. Oh, honey. And he started collapsing, and he started getting white and thing, and yeah. And that person never moved out of his mother's house until she died. And, you know, and that really was like, taught me, oh my God, look at the power we have over each other. And there's obviously an extremely negative and scary example. And it was like straight out of Stephen King, right? So
But that, I love what you said. So when you get a flu, instead of, oh gosh, I'm getting, don't even name it as a flu if you're getting some kind of thing, because flu has all kinds of connotation. Virus has an even worse connotation these days. But what we do is we thank you, body, for doing this, so that it is a signal that something's going on that's purifying this out of my body. Because anything that you're grateful for, it opens up the energy of more healing, more love, more light. Anything you complain about, you contract and you like hold the light away.
absolutely. I mean, we all know professional victims, right?
Right.
All right, we're now in the part of the show, because we're already an hour in, where we answer questions and read comments. So I'm going to read some comments. Thank you, Deborah Haviland, for all the wonderful comments you've made. Her most recent one is such a beautiful story about honoring people who truly serve in humble ways. Of course, that was about your previous story, and I love that story. And then Marcia Kimmel writes, I'm dealing with my tenants association, being the chairperson who serves the community. Lately, I've had to recommit to taking that job. I decided I really want to do this job because it gives me joy to help create a lovely place to live here. It's extra work, but it gives me joy. So it's enlightened self-interest. Everything got lighter and easier when I made that decision. And then a special message from Marcia to you. She says, "Thank you, Rebbe Debbie." I guess yeah,
She's my cousin.
there's a little story there with Rebbe Debbie, no doubt. um,
Cousin,
and
I just want to say, I love that enlightened
isn't
self-interest.
that I've never heard those words together. That's great.
Brilliant
no,
runs in our
Actually,
family.
no, enlightened self-interest. Enlightened self-interest. That's beautiful. Beautiful. And then Deborah Haviland writes, I'm so grateful to hear you saying all this truth about the vibration and energy and color light of our words. Our words really do create our reality. Absolutely. Deborah Meltzer writes, we have a lot of Deborahs today. Deborah Meltzer writes, the Dalai Lama says, be wisely selfish. Be wisely selfish. That's good.
That's beautiful, Deb. See, because everybody, almost, I'd say 1/8 of the little girls who were born in the 1950s are Deborah. There were 5 Deborahs out of 18 kids in my kindergarten class.
Is that because like Debbie Reynolds was very popular in the movies when you were all being born?
Debbie Reynolds and Deborah
Deborah
Carr.
Carr.
Right. So we have, it's really, it was an epidemic in the 50s.
I had 3 Scots growing up in my elementary school, you know, because you go from class of the 3 Scots in my class for all those years. So, yeah. All right. Are there any, and for our viewers, people listening, we've got 40 people with us. Any thoughts, comments, or questions? Now's the time to pop them in there. And Deborah, is there a tool or a practice that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, wow. Well, you know what? Why don't I do this? Because I am, you've noticed, like I tend to be like that.
Passionate. Passionate. You're a passionate woman.
And I get really excited. And I also, which is very funny because, you know, I've been a meditation teacher. I've been meditating since 1970. I learned TM in 1970, meditating regularly. I became a TM teacher in 72. So it's been 50 years. And I also do a lot of breath work that I learned from through the Art of Living Foundation, you know, Art of Living. And I love breath work because it's very centering and it's so great because it calms down, you know, Vata people like me. And, you know, Vata is, there are three body
Vata,
types for your
Pitta, and
Kapha.
Kapha.
Kapha are those earthy kind of people who walk slowly and have strong constitutions. And Pitta people are those fiery people like redheads and people who can't stand the heat. And Vata people are like me. You know, they talk really fast, they move really fast, they think really fast. So we Vatas really, it's really great that we have breath techniques to center us. So I'd love to teach people a breath technique, which I could teach it in 3 minutes.
Fabulous. Let's do it.
Yeah. So it's called straw breath. And you'll see why it's called straw breath. And it's a pranayama. You know, there are many different kinds of pranayama. A lot of people know, you know, alternate nostril breathing, Nadi Shodhana pranayama. Prana means breath or life force. And yama means control. So we control our breath. And pranayama, that's called straw breath. It has a Sanskrit name too, but it's escaping me right now. It's simply breathing in through the nose and then out through the mouth, but you purse your lips as if you were blowing through a straw. Remember when you were a little kid and you blew into your straw to make bubbles in your chocolate milk? Okay, so you go, you know, like straw breath. That's how we call it, straw breath. So let's do it together. And Doris asks, what's the best technique for good sleep? Straw breath is a great thing to do because you could even do it lying down. You don't have to do straw breath standing up. But after we do it together, I'll tell you some of the ways that I use it. Okay.
And after straw breath, also just to prepare
Pardon?
you. After straw breath, a really important question. Larry asked how to donate to Haiti. So after straw breath, if you can let us know how to do that, give me the link, I'll post it. Okay. But back to straw breath.
Okay. Thanks, Larry. So you breathe in through your nose. Let's do it together. In through your nose. And then out through our mouth with our lips pursed like we were blowing through a straw. Empty your lungs. In through your nose again, deep breath. Out through your lips, pursed lips. Slowly until your lungs are empty, don't strain. In through your nose, fill up your lungs, but don't strain. Gently fill up your lungs. And then out through your lips, pursed lips, straw breath. Continue at your own pace for a few more breaths. And now you can allow your breath to return to normal. And you could write in the chat if you feel how you feel right now. Do you feel more calm? Do you feel more centered? Write in the chat. Do you feel relaxed?
Ready for nap time. That really relaxed me.
Right.
Beautiful.
Write in the chat how you feel and make sure it goes to panelists and attendees and not just to panelists. I see some comments, but they're just going to panelists. So maybe people are still breathing. That's why they're not commenting. But while we're waiting for some comments, I'll tell you the great thing about straw breath. Not only can you use it to calm yourself down anytime during the day, not only can you use it to help you sleep at night, not only can you use it to clear your mind, but if you're like, for example, let's say you're in a board meeting, okay, and there's people sitting around the table and you're really anxious because what's happening is not what you want to be happening, to get yourself centered again, you can just do straw breath. Nobody will know. You can't, people can't tell that you're doing straw breath, but it brings you right to center and it helps clear out your mind so you can maybe think more clearly, see things from a different perspective. I used to be an impatient person. I'm not anymore. I'm very patient. And I would be in a line at the bank and I couldn't even handle it when there was one person in front of me. So I would just do straw breath to calm myself down and to be centered. When you're about to lose it with your kids, just do a few straw breaths. It brings you back to center. It's a really simple but powerful technique. And other than that, the only other thing is something that I would share with everyone. Oh, so people are saying calm, so calm, more calm. Oh, yes, choices, everyone, very relaxed. Deborah says she does straw breath to handle anything challenging. It works so well. And if you want anything else that I would tell people to do is what I said earlier. If you want success in your life, just wish other people success. Do what you can to help other people become successful. When I came back into the land of the living, after I was home for 20 years with my kids. And the reason why I came back, I'll just tell you really quickly, was because my friend Janet Atwood, who you definitely have to have as a guest on Saturday Night Live, but and on this. So Janet Atwood said to me, Deb, when are you going to stop pretending that your kids still need you and get back to speaking, because the world needs you? And I
Nice.
right, and because Janny, she doesn't mince words, and I remember thinking, I don't know if my kids ever needed me, but I needed them, because to me, one, I love you, mommy, is worth more than 1,000 standing ovations.
Mm.
But she was right. She
Beautiful.
was right. It's time to get.
We have so many common circles. Janet, Marcy Scheimoff, my wife and I, David Pramol and Meaton. All of us were in India as guests together for 5 weeks as guests of the ashram we were visiting, the Oneness Institute.
Yeah, wasn't it Parmat Niketan?
I don't know that person.
Sadvi?
No, we were at the Oneness Institute.
Oh, right.
Bhagwan Kalki and
Yes.
yeah, so we did that whole thing together, and Marcy's been on the show. But as a good reminder, we have not had Janet on Saturday Night Live. We've had Marcy on a couple times, and Marcy's going to be a co-host and collaborative partner on a show that we're doing with her in the fall. So that'll be fun. But that's a good idea about Janet.
Yeah, definitely have to have Janet. But I was actually going to make a point about I can't even remember what it was. So hey, it must.
We want to, a couple things.
Oh, I know what it was. So when I came back, Janet immediately got me some speaking engagements, like immediately, because now she was a New York Times bestselling author while I was at the aforementioned Chuck E. Cheese. And she immediately got me on, big stages, like boom, 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 boom. She just said, you got to have Deborah. She's the best. She's a great speaker. She was my mentor. And she and I speak on something that was kind of similar, because she speaks on finding your passion. And the essence of my teaching is about finding what you love to do and do it. And I said, Janet, aren't you worried? Like we talk about something so similar, and what if they really like me and invite me next time? She said, then they invite you next time. And it was so beautiful, because that's Janet, it's like, the way to become truly successful, if you really want to go for the gold, is not only wish people success and prosperity, help them become successful and prosperous, help them in an industry that is your industry, that might even seem like it's taking something away from you, but it's not, because in Kabbalah it says the creator looks down and says, oh, look at Deb, or look at Wendy, she's helping so-and-so. I'm going to help her.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I want to take people to how to donate to Haiti. And also, I've, of course, pulled up your wonderful website, Yes to Success. And one of the wonderful things is that if you go there, she provides a really lovely gift. So all you got to do is put in your name. And I actually did this 2 weeks ago. And I got this wonderful ebook from her. So go to yes2success.com, yes2success.com. And you're very generous in all that you give, all the wonderful things that are here, videos and your YouTube posts. So how do people donate to Haiti? How can we do that?
Yeah, the name of the nonprofit that I work with, and the great thing about it is that every penny goes to Haiti. We have people on the ground. We go down there, we work with them. They are extremely competent, extremely, they know the ropes. I love, God bless organizations like the Red Cross and this and that, but you're paying administrators, and I know they deserve to have salaries, but with us, every penny goes to the people.
What's the website? I'm going to pop it in a URL.
Oh, it's aid still required, aidstillrequired.org. And by the way, the reason why the name of our nonprofit is Aid Still Required, the subtitle is just because it left the headlines doesn't mean it left the planet, because what we do is we help people when natural disasters strike, But when the Red Cross is gone, and we know this from experience, and I won't even name the names of the other organizations, it doesn't matter. Just because it left the headlines doesn't mean it left the planet. We are on the ground, building schools, building houses. When the cameras stop rolling, we start working, bringing these kids food, and we built, we built schools. Oh, there's one of our schools. Scroll down a little bit more. There's our wait, stop. This beautiful school on the right. It used to be literally a shack with just like a few pieces of wood leaning against each other. And now we, for $30 a month, you can provide a year of school and medical care for these kids. And then we just took on another school. That's the kids over in the left. And if it weren't for us, most of these kids would have no education. They would just, and we also do literacy for adults. You see down below, we have literacy programs because the literacy, 60% of Haiti's adults are illiterate. They can't even sign their names. So we want to turn that statistic around. So we do literacy training. Anyway, it's an amazing, if anybody wants to come to Haiti with me and see it for yourself after COVID, we will be going again.
Well, let's all
Thank
go
you
there.
so much.
aidstillrequired.org. aidstillrequired.org. You know, it's a long shot, but I have 2 clients that also go to Haiti and have a nonprofit. It would be amazing if it was the same one. Any chance Kristen O'Connell and Christy? No. Okay.
No, but we'd love to know them because we do, we get together with other people and do joint projects. Like we've gotten together with one group called Egg a Day, and they are now providing 1 egg a day. So our kids get some protein at all of our schools. And what we do is we go and train their people on our school model, which is self-sufficient. What we do is we don't give a handout, but a hand up. And just so you know, our school, every teacher in that school grew up in that village. We took the young adults in the village and we sent them to become the teachers. We paid for their education. Now they came back and now they're teaching at our school. And the actual school building, which is gorgeous, was built by the people in that town. We employed them. We didn't bring Americans down to build the school. They built their own school. And again, that sense of pride, giving.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will connect you privately with Christy Beener and Kristen O'Connell, the longtime clients of mine, but they also go to Haiti every year and do a lot of work. So, and especially given the quake, you know, and maybe I'll have all of you on my show to just raise money. We'll make that, you know, one of our fundraisers. Because, you know, on Saturday Night Live, we usually raise a good $1,000 to $1,500 every Saturday night for whoever we're supporting. So
that would be fantastic. Thank you so much.
well, thank you. I'll see if there's any last chat questions that we might have missed. Let's see. A lot of people felt more calm. Larry took your course
in 1981.
Straw breath. You were 12, I understand. Wendy did the straw breath on a flight during turbulence, and it kept you calm and relaxed. Good job. Deborah Haviland does straw breath all the time. So beautiful, everybody. Deborah Poneman, thank you so much for giving us some time on Sunday, giving us some wonderful tools. Just really, really beautiful. And as always, thank you everybody for watching. I am going to let people know about a couple of other events that are happening. Global Peace Tribe stuff that people may want to be a part of and know about. So I'm going to put the spotlight on me because I'm going to actually pull up a couple of posters.
Before you go into that, I just want to say thank you and I love you and this is great and you're fantastic and let's do it again and again and again.
I would love that. I would love that. And like, stick
around.
around.
I'm going to say because I want to hear the announcements.
So tomorrow morning, it's going to be unlike anything I've ever done before. Some of you may have seen last Sunday on my Sacred Sunday show, we had Richard Chisholm on. Richard has a terminal cancer and has chosen a legal euthanasia exit from his body. and he's planning on doing it tomorrow. The doctor's coming over in the morning, and he wants us to hold space for him. So we actually are going to do a Facebook Live with Richard. We're gonna have to be very, very flexible because he really doesn't know how he's gonna be feeling in the morning, if he's gonna be ready. We're not sure exactly how we're gonna do it. It's gonna be a very spontaneous kind of a thing and a very God-centered thing. But if you wish to hold space, you can actually come into the Zoom room and hold space with us, or just between 11 and 11:30 tomorrow morning, be in the awareness that that's probably his fantasy. We'll see if it works out time-wise. His fantasy has been to exit at 11 a.m. Again, there's God timing, there's doctor timing, there will be a doctor with him. So you are invited, and I'm collaborating with my very dear friend, Larissa Stowe, and she does every day an 11:11 meditation. So we're going to collaborate with her, and it'll be part of her group and their meditation. So let's all tomorrow morning, either online with us or wherever you are, bless Richard as he leaves his body. That's, again, unlike anything I've done before, and it's going to be very beautiful and very unique. Also, there's been so much polarization on our planet. There's obviously a lot of polarization around the election, and now there's a lot of polarization about vaccinating. And I'm not here to promote getting vaxxed. I'm not here to promote anti-vax. What I am here to promote is how we can talk to each other without blaming each other, without shaming each other, without making each other wrong. That is really, really important. Because I'm a coach, I have to say I've sadly worked with too many people where there's been, relationships that have ended over this. People that used to be very dear friends, and they're fighting and arguing because one person is in an echo chamber that, getting vaxxed is the only intelligent thing, and somebody else is in an echo chamber where they're hearing all sorts of other stuff. And so I want to invite, I was talking with Larissa about it, and we were talking about how sad it is that so many of our friends are struggling with this issue. And so we decided that we wanted to do a show about it. And so on Friday night, I do a show every Friday night called Straight Talk. And my Friday night show is where we really deal with the hard stuff. Saturday night is the inspirational variety show. And then Sundays are where I go deep with someone like Deborah Poneman. Next Friday night on Straight Talk, we are going to be talking about vax or not, how to make choice without judging or shaming each other. And so again, we're not going to get into the medical this or the medical that, but we're going to just really, it's going to be more a compassionate communication practice of how we can acknowledge that we have strong belief systems. It's our bodies, it's our health. So whichever side of the coin you're on, most people have really strong beliefs about it. How can we honor each other? So that's next Friday night at 7:30 on my Straight Talk show. And I really want to encourage everybody to come to that. It's an important show. And then finally, next Saturday on Saturday Night Live, it's once every quarter, we collaborate with our friend Teresa Collins and Global Coherence Pulse. Whoops. And I just pressed the wrong button, so let me get rid of that for a minute. We're going to be collaborating with Teresa Collins and Global Coherence Pulse. And we have one of our favorite speakers, Greg Braden, coming back on, and a host of other really wonderful speakers and musicians, Gary Malkin, True Osborne, Just Magic. So join us. And the topic is new science, new story, and a new song. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful show. So join us next Saturday night. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'll go back to gallery view because the lovely Deborah Poneman is still here. Thank you, Deborah, for giving us your wisdom, your beautiful story. I love that story about, when you're losing it and there on Oprah is your teaching while your kid is driving you nuts. That's an amazing story. Thank you for the strength and courage to endure all that time at Chuck E. Cheese. You are far more courageous than I am. And
The scary part is I actually like it.
oh, that is, but please tell me that's not the food. The food. How can they even call it food? No, it's beautiful. And actually there it is. You were compersive. You saw how much fun the children were having, bouncing around on the things and running around and, so you're beautiful.
Yes, they love that big mouse head. They just, they love Chucky.
And giant rodents just
The
watch
giant rodent.
freaked me out. Take care, everybody. Share our shows. It's a wonderful way to share our shows. Thank you so much. And yes, you can get in touch with Deborah by going to info@yes2success.com. Info to yes success.com. And she does remember Mark Haviland.